Hello and what is up everyone, it is Hachi from the Art of Dota, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to jungle Wraith King. Now, you may ask why you want to jungle Wraith King. And my answer to that is pretty much I think he's the fastest jungler right now. I can't confirm that for sure because I'm not a very efficient jungle player, but I'm getting a decent farm. That's around Midas at 10 minutes, which is not bad. Midas treads at 10 minutes is pretty decent when you're a carry. So if your carry position gets stolen and you're mainly a carry player, if you are lower MMR, and I'd say anything below 5k is considered lower MMR, I think you should actually try out my jungle build for Wraith King, because it will carry the game. Because playing against inexperienced support players, they're not going to punish you properly, and even if they do come to punish you, the way you jungle is so weird that even if they do mess with you, there's a good chance that you're going to maybe get a counter kill, and I'll show you why. So you want to start off with Glove of Haste as well as Salve. Now you're going to see exactly why, as I'm going to read this ability here, and the change to this ability, his crit, right? Mortal Strike. So you will level crit at level 1, and if you read it, it says Wraith King passively gains a chance to deal bonus damage on an attack, kill non-player units when it triggers, and convert them into a skeleton army. So now that his crit also builds up skeleton charges, so if he crits a neutral, pretty much anything but an ancient, so anything in the jungle except for the ancients, you will insta-kill it if you proc the crit, which is a 9% chance at level 1. So if you get real lucky, theoretically you can just one-shot the big creep on your first hit while jungling, and then if you get super lucky, one-shot the other creep in the camp and just clear the big camp literally in 3 seconds or something like that, or however long it takes you to get 2 auto attacks off. And you can see I did get a little bit lucky, and I cleared through that big camp very quickly. And with the skeletons, you could actually use the skeletons to tank for you. Notice I did start with the salve there, and that's what you want to do. The reason why you start with a salve is so that you can get through the first big camp. Pretty much the way the percentages work with pseudo random distribution, whatever it's called, you're going to be able to clear through the big camp every single time with that salve. You will get lucky enough with the crit eventually, and you're going to clear out that big creep, and then you won't take too much damage anymore, and the salve will heal you pretty much to full. And if you get really lucky, you might not even have to use your salve in the first camp. As you can see, I did fare myself another salve, which is what you want to do, but you only need to buy 2 salves. That's the only regen you'll ever need to buy, because with enough lifesteal from your passive, once you hit level 2, if you hit the crit, it's going to heal you for quite a bit, especially if the creep was high HP before killing it, and that means you're going to be able to sustain fairly well as being able to use the skeletons, of course. And you can see that big creep was quite high in HP, and I crit it and I healed myself pretty much up to full. Now at 3 minutes I've cleared through 3 camps already, which is quite good, and another big camp is going to spawn, and Wraith King is a monster at clearing out these big camps, and that's why I think he has to be the fastest jungler in the game. No other hero can do this. I mean, former fast junglers like Venomancer and things like that, sure, they can clear through the camp quickly, but not as fast as Wraith King. And once you get your treads, you actually clear through the jungle insanely fast. Now, for the build, you want to just max the crit. You want to have as high crit chance as possible, and you also want to be able to summon as many skeletons as possible. As you see, the skeletons scale at 4 skeletons at level 1, 5 at level 2, 6, 10, 7 at max. And the reason why you want the skeletons is because they also help increase your farm speed significantly. They do a ton of damage. If you just click on a skeleton real quick here, I gotta turn on the free camera for that. They do 37 damage, which is quite a lot. It's a little bit more than Nature's Prophet's Treants. So once you get your skeleton army up, you can't control the skeletons, so this is perfect if you can't micro as well. You don't have to worry about micro. The skeletons will attack whatever they have vision of. So to make the skeletons go to the next camp, you just need to give vision of the camp, and the skeletons will run there, as you see here. So once you have your treads, you're just going to keep hitting the creeps. Again, you don't really need to do anything complicated here. You just hit the creeps. Ideally, you want to target onto the bigger creeps or the higher health creeps, especially if you haven't crit in a while, because I'm pretty sure that's how the random distribution works. If you hit for a bunch of times without critting, you're going to have a higher chance of critting. So if you notice you went 4 or 5 hits or more without critting, you want to go for the higher health creep. If it's one of the neutrals. For ancients, it doesn't really matter, as you're not going to be able to one-shot them anyway. So I did go for a second point in the Vampiric Aura, and the reason behind that was pretty much I just want a little bit more sustain, and I don't plan on helping my team anyway. At this point here, you could actually decide to go for a point in stun instead of another point in lifesteal, but at this point I saw my lanes were fine, no one's going to need help. My Tiny was feeding a bunch, but it didn't really matter too much as he was still getting a decent amount of experience, and he's also a very good flash farmer. And doing this will ruin your lanes. Don't get me wrong, and that's why I say this is not really that viable in higher MMR brackets, because enemy supports will play properly. They'll punish you. They'll try to gank you, or they'll either gank you or your lanes. But at lower MMRs, like 4K or even if just 5K flat, I say this build or going jungle Wraith King is perfectly legit, because you can see how fast it is. I don't think any other hero can jungle quite as quickly, especially with the neutrals giving less gold and experience at this point. I'm able to pretty much clear through the full jungle. The one thing that this build does have a problem with is the ancient spawn. Certain ancients you just can't clear, and that's the black dragons. They're a bit too tanky with high armor, and the, what is it called, the prowlers. But theoretically, if you get good ancient spawns such as the what is it called, the golems or the thunderhides, that's what they're called, you're going to be able to farm them just fine with your skeleton army. So once you get a bunch of skeletons up, you actually can even go to the ancients and start farming it. As you saw, I did farm one ancient there because my creeps, my skeletons just randomly ran to them for some reason. And again, you can't control the skeletons, so they're completely random. Sometimes they'll just veer off. They'll even run to the mid lane sometimes and, you know, feed the enemy a couple of CS, but I'm pretty sure that's no big deal. So the reason why I say that it's hard to gank, because at this point, right, I'm level 5. Ideally, I can go for stun at this point, but I just make the decision not to because I know I won't contribute anyway. I will go for a stun at level 6 instead of leveling my ultimate. Because having level 1 ultimate, if you're going to jungle, doesn't really do much for you. You'd rather have the stun, of course, as I did skip it at level 4. So notice here, I'm not just even say the skill point or anything like that. I'm just going to level up my stun, forgo my ultimate. Because even if I do die and respawn, like, what am I going to do? I'm just Wraith King. I have minimal items at this point. It's not going to do much. So I won't actually even skill my ultimate until level 11. And sometimes I even just save the skill point up and just level up 2 points in my ultimate just at level 12. Because level 1, the ultimate has a relatively long cooldown. And for the most part, if you die once, you're going to die twice. But I do save the skill point. So if there's a scenario where I feel like my ultimate's going to be real good, I can just skill it up and it might turn the fight. But as you see at this point, with skeletons up, I believe I summoned like 7 here. I'm able to clear through the jungle, even farm the stack, and it's incredibly fast. And at this point, I'm going to get a Midas. And this build is all about attack speed. You might notice I even go on to power treads because you don't care about your damage. Because again, you're one-shotting creeps if you proc your crit. So you just want to attack as often as possible so you proc crit as often as possible. So again, I do recommend going agi treads when you're jungling so that you just have that slightly more attack speed so you're able to get more attacks out. And you want to get a glove of haste as fast as possible as well, so you can just attack faster. And again, with this build, you don't need Stout Shield, you don't need Quelling Blade, because you don't care about doing more damage. You're one-shotting creeps anyway. When you proc your crit, and your skeletons will provide you enough extra damage, and you just want to get to that Midas as fast as possible. Now, after Midas, you can transition into other items. Again, attack speed items are very good, like Mask of Madness, something like a Maelstrom. My personal build is Mask of Madness into a Sanjin Yasha if I'm trying to carry the game. If it's a higher MR game and I realize that I'm not going to be able to just play super greedy because the enemies are, you know, not dumb, I'll go for a more support-oriented build, such as like a Blink Dagger and Blade Mail or something like that. I just did that in about a 6k average game, and it did work out as well. So I'm making this work in a higher average game. Got a little bit lucky. My team played pretty well to carry me, but I just need to test out this build and get this video out for you guys because I think this is super legit. And it might gain you a bunch of MMR in lower MMR brackets, especially if you first pick Wraith King. Now, the reason why you want to first pick Wraith King is because it baits the enemy team into picking a bunch of Wraith King counters that aren't really Wraith King counters, such as Anti-Mage. Now, the reason why Anti-Mage is not really a counter to Wraith King when you're doing this jungle build is you're not in the lane, and you're actually farming faster than Anti-Mage in the lane, which is ridiculous, but it's true. You're farming faster than Anti-Mage in the lane if you just keep the jungle up and, don't help your team at all or you don't die. Because you're going to get a 10-minute Midas, and unless Anti-Mage is absolutely free farming and kill your offlaner multiple times, you're going to also outfarm their supports, of course, because they're going to most likely protect the AM early on, because that's what supports do when they have an AM on their team. So, multiple games, I picked this Wraith King against, or first picked this Wraith King, someone tried to counter pick me with AM, and I just win against it because you're just actually stronger than him. I don't even skill my ultimate, so burn my mana for all I care. I don't even use my stun. I just buy Mask of Madness, Anti-Mage blinks in, thinks he can kill me. I don't have mana, right? I'm 0 mana, he's gonna ult me or whatever, and I just pop Mask of Madness, I man up on him, I lifesteal up, and I mean, he's not doing that much damage because I don't have mana, his mana break is useless, and I actually solo kill him. And this is going to happen in your low MMR pubs. They're not going to see this coming. Who expects a Wraith King jungle in 2017? It's almost 2018, right? Who expects that? And this is why this is so legit as well in pubs right now. Below the 5k bracket, Wraith King has a 55% win rate, which is very high. Overall, he has about 55 in all brackets, and that's actually really good. That's like top 10 in a lot of brackets. So this hero is actually pretty good in pubs, mostly because of his ability to farm relatively quickly with his new passive and push out lanes as well. Now, Wraith King is extremely good against heroes that don't have any form of AoE. So if the supports don't have AoE, I did mention before, what happens if they gank you, right? They'll commit their stun, they'll do whatever, right? And you'll be kind of low, and then you just summon skeletons. If you have your skeletons up, you'll summon your skeletons, and there I try to farm that Prowler camp there. But that's just something you can't farm. You can't touch that. That camp is too hard. So I don't even bother. And it looks like they're blocking my jungle here. Yeah, they actually committed wards to block all the jungle camps. They realized, oh crap, Wraith King's getting farmed. We need to do something about this. Let me just commit all our resources to blocking his camps. That's pretty funny. I was wondering what happened in the game when I was playing it. I was like, I'm pretty sure they blocked our camp for Tiny's just farming. I'm not really paying attention. So, back to the game. When you are at this point, I'm level 9. Your level 10 talent's really great as well because you get more attack speed at level 10. Again, I don't skill my ultimate until level 12, or I save a point in it just in case. At this point, I didn't bother. If I'm dying, I'm dying. My Wraith or my Huskar got baited in there. But back to what I was talking about, Wraith King being good in pubs is not only does he farm quickly, as I mentioned, very quickly actually, he pushes out lanes, and he's very good against heroes that don't have wave clear. Every single time I play this build, I just ban Tinker, because Tinker is a very good counter to Wraith King. Not only does he just stop your split push with the skeletons by just spamming March, but he's also very good against you, as he'll have the laser all game, and you'll have to either buy a BKB or an MKB to avoid the mischance. He's very good, as Wraith King only right clicks, and Tinker prevents that. So if you are planning on doing this, I definitely suggest banning Tinker, as it's probably the best hero against Wraith King. Or one of the best. It's definitely an annoying hero as well for your team. So overall, I do recommend banning Tinker. But back to Wraith King and what he can do in the late game is his talents are great now. You look at his talents, you get 15 strength at level 15, that's whatever, but level 20 talent, that is huge. Before, this was a level 25 talent, but at level 20, you get no reincarnation mana cost. And that's where the AM thing that I mentioned before is null and void. What is AM going to do? When you're level 20, he's not going to burn your mana, and if you're actually 0 mana, you're going to be able to man up against him even more because he's doing less damage to you, right? So at level 20, you hit this power spike, and that's why I do go for the Midas to accelerate my experience as much as possible. At level 20, you hit this power spike where if they picked heroes, OD, Lion, Anti-Mage counter you because they can burn your mana, they buy Diffusal Blades. That's not going to be the case anymore. You're going to be able to get your reincarnation off, as well as Wraith King being a very good solo rush hero. And here you can see a cheeky combo with the Tiny to toss me in, and look at my damage output there with the crit. I just burst that Zeus, and just imagine AM. If AM was there, I think he would die in the same way, because IM is fairly squishy early on, and Wraith King does very good physical DPS with this crit and a Mask of Madness, and that's the main reason why I go for Mask of Madness. Just your physical burst, if you can get those attacks in, is crazy. So in this game, after Mask of Madness, I decided to go for a more early game oriented build, just because I realized my team can kind of snowball a little bit, as we do have a Huskar and we don't have a direct Huskar counter. Now Blade Mail is very good against Zeus, very good against Luna, and Luna is a super popular hero right now, and I feel like Wraith King is, against bad players, one of the best counters to her, because you just get a Blade Mail, right? You have your ultimate, so you don't care about dying, and you just tank her full Eclipse. You tank her full Eclipse with Blade Mail on, right? And early on, I mean, she's not gonna think too much about using her ultimate. She's gonna see a fight, and if the first thing she sees is Wraith King, she's like, alright, I'll get the Wraith King kill. But you pop your Blade Mail, and it kills the Luna. It's also very good against Zeus, versatile backline, Sand King as well. In this game, Blade Mail is the perfect build, and of course, it synergizes really good with Wraith King. Of course, Blade Mail is good against other heroes as well, most notably like Sniper and things like that. We accidentally take a fight here, but it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes you just take a fight and you lose it, but this is a pretty insane fight, by the way. This Warlock dropped his ultimate. It lasts for a while. The buyback comes out from the Pangolier, and it goes on for like 2 or 3 minutes of this Pangolier just running them around. But this video is not about Pangolier. Maybe I'll have a future video on him. I already kind of made a video on him, but not a real one. So back to Wraith King builds and what you want to go. I do think Midas is core. Not only does the global attacks give you more attack speed early on, so you can jungle a little bit faster. You want that experience, as I mentioned, as that level 20 talent is so important to you. In addition, your level 25 talent's neat as well. You're going to get the reincarnation cast Wraith Fire Blast, which is kind of cool, or you're going to get more Vampiric Aura Lifesteal, which is very good in games where you're just manning up against people, and that Lifesteal will be potentially game-changing if everyone is just going for man-up fights, which happens a lot in lower MMRs. Lower MMR carries don't really think too much about going in, right? They don't consider everything, so they just kind of man up and hope for the best. And if you're a Wraith King, usually you'll win the man up battle, and that's why his win rate is pretty high. I did talk about a little bit about how he can Rosh, but he's very good Roshing here. You can do the solo Rosh. If you go for a Mask of Madness Desolator, or even I think Mask of Madness Sandra Joshua, you can even Rosh at that point. But I did say Desolator. Desolator is also a very good build on him, because he doesn't really lack the damage. So if you just get that little bit of extra damage and minus armor, it synergizes very good with the Mask of Madness. And of course, Blink is core on him. In this game, I didn't go Blink because I had a Tiny to toss me in, and we were kind of coordinating that. But if you need to get in the fight, you're going to want to go for the Blink Dagger. Or you can go the alternative and go for Sanjay Yasha. I mentioned that. Sanjay Yasha is just going to give you a lot of move speed, so you can just run in there super fast. You're going to be speedy on the Wraith King. Now, other builds, of course, you'll go for things like Mjolnir, potentially. You can cast out on yourself. It synergizes really well with Wraith King. You could even go for things like... let me open up the items here so you guys can see it. You can go for things like the Assault Cuirass, that's pretty good, or you can go for a Shadow Blade. Anything is pretty much up for grabs. Wraith King does have some pretty versatile build. For my build, I really am liking the Mask of Madness and Sanjay Josh's for the extra move speed. His main problem is getting kited, so you will want either move speed, right? Sanjay Josh, I think, is core. It's a really good item. Or you're going to want, of course, Blink Dagger, as I said, or something like a Shadow Blade to close the gap as well. Because you don't want to build straight damage and not be able to hit anyone. You eventually want to close the gap and get on top of them and do your damage, right? Of course, Armlet is a possibility, but I'm just not really liking it too much. I do think that can work in certain scenarios, because the way I build with the Mask of Madness, I'd rather just have the Sanjay Yasha. I feel like the Armlet is a little bit too early game, because then you're getting a lot of farm and it fills my item slots up too much. Like, if I was carry Wraith King, I'd probably go Armlet, but with this jungle build with Midas, I feel like going Midas and then Armlet just doesn't feel right. You can go for it if you want. I'm looking at the build here. It recommends Echo Saber. I guess that's okay, because again, with Wraith King, you do fall off in the late game, like the late game. So you don't want to go for too many super late game items. As you see here, I'm just going for the Blade Mail, and I think I'll buy a Sanjin Yasha next. You want to build these early game items. So I think things like Echo Saber and Armlet is perfectly viable on him, because at some point you want to leave the jungle and start team fighting. And level 15 talent, the reason why you don't go for the +5 max skeletons is because you're never going to get there. You're never going to get to 12 skeletons. That's just the fact, because eventually at some point you're going to stop hitting creeps. Your team's going to be pissed at you if you just hit creeps all game. So getting to that 12 skeletons is like pretty hard, actually. And at some point you're going to be hitting too hard that you clear through camps before you even get a chance to crit, and then you're really not going to get your skeletons up. So the 15 strength, even though it's not that great, is just better overall. But I do think that if you have to play support, I think transitioning into a support is viable as well. You know, going for, I think you still go for Midas, because again, you still want to scale up in terms of experience, but you can go for a Blink Dagger right after the Midas instead of a greedier item. Or you can go for some build like I did here, where it's kind of a hybrid, right? I'm kind of support-ish E, or slightly carry as well. You know, I went for these early game items, nothing too expensive, and it's gonna allow me to be quite effective in the fight, but I'm not like the main damage dealer or anything. That will be my Tiny and my Huskar. And I think other potential builds on Wraith King, I've experimented with a full support Wraith King, where I just went like, I still think I did go for Midas as well, but I went for just full supporting items. I went for Aghanims, Blink Dagger, and Force Staff, things like that, Glimmer, and just was unkillable, right? I would just run back and forth in the fight and just be unkillable. And with Aghanims, if you stay alive throughout the entire fight, if your teammates die, they're going to respawn as ghosts. And I think it's potentially, I mean, really game-changing, especially, again, I say in lower MMR brackets, where it's quite chaotic, and you're going to be able to literally just buy an Aghs and win every fight, because everyone is farmed, and if your teammates will not get punished for being out of position, right, they're going to respawn as a ghost and continue the fight, you're going to win the fight, because like it's literally a 5-on-10 technically, because everyone in your team has 2 lives, and they're going to continue fighting. So you kill someone once, they're going to respawn and stay there for another, I think it lasts for something like 8 seconds. Let me see it. Wraith King won't revive if he doesn't have it. Blah 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 blah. Where's the Aghanims? Scepter death delay 7 seconds. I see it. Alright, it wasn't in the alt. I was looking at the alt. Wrong thing there. So yeah, 7 seconds. I mean, another 7 seconds of your teammates being able to cast their spells, do whatever they want, even if they died. It's quite game changing, especially in the late game. I don't think you go for Aghs early on. It's not an item you rush or anything, but as a late game item, if it does get to the late game, it's incredibly good. Of course, Wraith King, make sure you buy BKB if you're the true carry of the game, and you're going to need to be the one hitting people, because if you don't have a BKB, it's going to be a major problem, because this hero, again, is very easily kited, and the enemy team has any stuns at all, you're going to need a BKB. In addition, if you really want to truly carry the game, you can even go greedier and buy like a Radiance or something like that. I think that item is still pretty good on him, but I do think that with this jungling build, because you were useless for so long, you actually peak very fast because you start jungling very fast, and jungling gets less and less effective, and Wraith King is not very good at split pushing if the enemy has any form of wave clear, as I mentioned. If they have AoE spells, your main priority for split pushing is just getting skeletons and pushing the lane, but if they can clear their skeletons very quickly, you're not going to do that great of a job. But if they don't have a way to clear your skeletons, as I mentioned, like if there's just supports with like no stuns or anything like that, like a Bane, they have no AoE, you can literally just summon your skeletons and they'll kill them in the fight. It's actually quite hilarious, because the skeletons, again, do a fair bit of damage. So in the early game, as I mentioned, if you're using your skeletons to farm, right, they're going from camp to camp. So if a support randomly walks up to you, the skeletons are going to start attacking them. And one thing to note is the skeletons actually attack the target that you stun, so you can somewhat direct them other than just giving them vision. So if you stun that support, you're going to command those skeletons to go after them. And for the most part, like, even if you die, your skeletons will kill the support. They do a lot of damage, and they're hard to kite. They move very quickly as well. So it's quite funny if they gank you in the jungle and then they die to the skeletons, and you can all chat them, you can BM them all you want. And of course, another power spike I'm about to hit here is level 18. Level 18 is really important on Wraith King because of the cooldown. It goes down from a 120-second cooldown, which is insane, to a 40-second cooldown. So Wraith King does peak later on, but as you see in this game, I'm getting my levels up very quickly because we're snowballing and the Midas. Having Midas is so important. As you see, I wouldn't be level 18 without a Midas at this point. I did Roshan as well, so at this point I'm level 18. I hit that power spike, and then my next power spike is level 20. I do recommend stealing the tome as well if your teammates aren't buying it. Make sure you buy the tome at level 10, level 20, or 10 minutes and 20 minutes, not level 10, level 20. I don't know what I'm saying there. So yeah, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, buy that tome, and you can get up to that level 20 a lot faster. You see at this point I'm even out leveling the Huskar. So how do you want to end the game as a Wraith King? You want to go for Roshan. That's the main thing. You want to get Roshan with your team, and you want to try to play around having that Aegis onto you or one of your teammates. Again, Aegis is fairly good on Wraith King because you're going to get 3 lives at that point. You're going to get the respawn from your ultimate. If you're level 18, it's going to be pretty much 4 lives because unless they're killing you very quickly, you can die once, it's going to proc your ultimate. You can die again, it's going to proc the Aegis. And by the time you die twice, most likely your ultimate's going to be up again because it is a 40-second cooldown. One thing you could also meme with Wraith King is if you go for the Octarine, that's going to lower his ultimate cooldown to 30 seconds. And this is really good with Aghanims as well, as Aghanims theoretically even lowers the cooldown even more by 7 seconds. And the reason for that is when you die in Aghanim's form, even if your ultimate is on cooldown, and that's why you became a ghost, right? That's what I mean by Aghanim's form. So you become a ghost, if your ultimate comes off cooldown while you're a ghost, so you die while your ultimate is on cooldown, but while you're a ghost, the ultimate goes off cooldown, you know, you had like 5 seconds left, 6 seconds left of your ultimate, you're going to respawn, even after you became a ghost. And that's why having Octarine and Aghanims is, you know, trolly. You're going to be pretty much unkillable because they literally have to kill you within 20 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to respawn again and again and again. And it's pretty memey. Some people troll with the refresher build as well, but I don't think that's necessary. Having Aghanims and Octarine is good enough if you literally want to be unkillable. And again, if you notice my items here, I had to go not serious items, but more items appropriate for the game, just because, you know, in higher MMR this was like 5k something average. People were gonna, you know, end the game a lot faster, and the games are gonna end quicker, so I built items to go with the pace of the game. You know, if you're playing 2k bracket, people don't know how to end the game, you're gonna have option to go for all these late game items. Even go for it. It's quite fun on Wraith King, and something that differentiates like the lower armor brackets from the higher armor brackets is, I mean, I've been watching my buddy's Wisp videos playing in 2K, and the fact that he can build these certain items on a Wisp in his unranked games is insane. Like Eat Blade and things like that. That doesn't usually happen, again, in the higher skill brackets, because people, you know, take advantage of mistakes and end the game a lot faster. So you don't get to this point where, you know, you're building these crazy items, which is something you do see a lot more often, again, in, you know, 2K, 3K. So the game is ending here. They pretty much gave up. We took 2 lanes of racks, so I'm about to close out the video as well. So I hope you guys try this out in your pubs. I talked about how you want to approach the jungle. Again, it's fairly simple. I also talked about how you want to play Wraith King in the mid game and later on as well, so you guys don't get lost. I think this is a fairly good beginner's guide to Wraith King. Again, he's not a very hard hero to play. He has 2 buttons now because he summons skeletons. I didn't talk about when you want to use the skeletons, but you pretty much want to use it every time you have 7, so you don't waste the charges. But you don't want to just randomly send them down lanes to go die. You want to at least use them to, you know, farm ancients. You can even use them to tank Rosh for you, or push out a lane where you know that no one can come to defend. So that's pretty much when you want to use a skeleton. You know, I'm actually running low on skeletons at this point, and it's because, again, I'm killing the creeps a little bit too fast. So that's why this level 15 talent, never go for the +5 max skeletons. Even if it's in a game where no one has any AoE, it's just garbage, because you're never going to get to 12. Or if you do, it's going to be really memey, but it's going to take you like a while. It'll literally take you like a full 5 minutes of AFK farming to get 12. That's just how it works. And one thing to note as well is I believe your skeletons spawn upon death or something like that with Ags. Or am I not right about that? Never mind. I'm not right about that. For some reason, I thought that's how it worked. But this is going to be it for the video. We failed at the high ground push here. I'll let you guys watch the last fight here, because this is pretty insane. This is not actually the last fight, but it's the last thing I'll show you guys. So Huskar Gaming, Pangolier Gaming. So we end up throwing by taking a fight without Huskar, and then he's like, all right, I'll show up, guys. And I believe he stopped there to all chat. But yeah, that's pretty much the game. You can see how effective the Wraith King was. I mean, I played more of supporting position in this game, so I didn't, get a bunch of kills or anything like that. I think if I wanted kills, I would go for Blink Dagger, so I actually get on top of people. But I just was tanking spells for my team in this game, relying on Tiny to toss me in and just created space pretty much. And that's the build I went for. In other games, I did actually play the carry position, but again, if you do have a real carry as well, you kind of want to play around them. You don't want to just straight up carry unless your carry is super incompetent and don't know what they're doing. In that case, yeah, go for the carry build and just take over the game as the carry. And again, this is a lot more viable if you are 2k, 3k, even 4k. I say this is perfect for any of those brackets, and I don't know what they're called now in terms of badges, Herald, whatever. So if you're at that, you mean try it out. It's, again, not too complicated. Basic thing you need to know is just Glove of Haste, salve, vary yourself another salve if you need to. Most of the time you will, so just have it on quick buy. Go straight for treads. Don't worry about Stout Shield. Don't worry about Falling Blade. You're not going to need it. So just go for straight treads into Midas and save your gold again for that Midas. You want to get it up as fast as possible. Usual timing for the Midas if no one messes with you and you get fairly lucky with the RNG of the crit and the neutral camp spawns. You're going to get it around 10 minutes, 9 minutes, I think 8 minutes at the earliest. So I'll see you all in the next video, but I hope this video did help you out. Try out Wraith King and get that MMR. Very good hero, I might say. Very, very good hero. Again, especially if you're lower MMR. And I know a lot of you guys watching this are, so try it out. It's quite fun. It's going to definitely troll some people, and you got to make sure you type to your teammates. I'm the fastest jungler in the game. I'm Wraith King, and you got to make them believe you. And you show up with that 10-minute Midas, and they will. So I'll see you all next time, and peace out.